Okay, Freaky on 4K from Shout Factory. Did a review on Reddit about this and didn't really like it. Fun movie, but didn't really like the transfer. So let's take a look. What I said. Freaky looks poor on 4K. Excuse me. Black level detail reveals noise and artifacts in some shots. Screen fades to black also reveal artifacts. This is pretty much unacceptable to me to see this in 2023 and on 4K. Totally unacceptable. And the strange thing about this is the bit rates are high enough to resolve this easily. I think the average bit rate is set to around 84. But you see bit rates most of the time is in the high 88s and 94s. You can pretty much encode most, if not all, content to look almost perfect with bit rates that high. So why does it look so bad? The only thing I can think of is that the source quality on the original file is just not good enough. The color looks more like 8-bit, not 10. If anything, it looks closer to 9, but it's just easier to keep with the 8-bit and 10-bit thing going on there. There are bit depth errors. You can see this along faces, walls, and that's pretty much what I mostly look for. The detail as well doesn't look 4K. So I did some research and the cameras were 2.8K. So what this means is, yeah, sure, it's a 4K DI file, but you would have to upscale that image to create the 4K DI. So this is why for me a lot of content that's digital doesn't look sharp enough. It still reminds me of the type of detail that I see on Blu-ray. Yeah, just a pinch higher, but you know, it's not a massive improvement. The sound was only 5.1, so you can see where the budget is on this movie. You know, when movies today, or well, this was 2020, released in 2020, but you know, it's a new movie still. You know, only have a 5.1 soundtrack. You know, it's a low budget movie. So, but in any case, you can get really good sound out of 5.1. The bass was good, surround sound's good, and you know, dialogue is clear. I can't really ask for much more than that, you know. Is it going to be on my reference discs? No, but it's. I think they did a fine job with it. So, and I don't have an issue with that. So, this is good. It's a fun movie, but why can't Shout Factory get higher source quality material? What's going on there? I say here as well, it reminds me of a ProRes trailer that's 8-bit. So ProRes trailers are uncompressed trailers, and well, uncompressed trailers within reason, and they're mostly 1080p. There are some 4Ks you can find out there. It's always good to find a 4K trailer. It's really nice to have that level of detail. But most of them are 8-bit. That means that anytime a camera fades to black, you will always see bit depth there, as always. You know, that's just how it is. And this is what this looked like, this movie. There was loads of those types of fade outs and things like that, especially towards the end in a garage scene. They did that and it looked extremely poor. Wasn't just because it faded wrong, but there was artifacts and noise in the shot as well. So it's really bad. Now, could they have used a different file, or was this the only file that they had on hand, or the only file made, right? So you see errors in 200 megabits. I think the files are actually closer to 220 megabits per second. The files that you get for ProRes trailers, that's their bit rates, and they're 8-bit, right? But when you go to 1,000 megabit files, like some of the open source stuff from Netflix, you don't see any errors whatsoever. They're 1,000 megabits per second. The color is 16-bit, and they're in well, most of them are in HDR, not all of them. I think they just started doing HDR. Well, when I say just started, you know, they've been doing it for a couple of years, but it is relatively new. But yeah, it's even with HDR10, which you would consider nowhere near as good as Dolby Vision. You know, it doesn't have the bit depth that Dolby Vision has. You can see flawless digital content using HDR10 when it's done right. So this was really the first time I was introduced to the idea that, wow, you can get HDR10 looking absolutely incredible. You don't need Dolby Vision. You didn't need it. It was 1,000 nit content anyway. Most TVs, within reason, can do 1,000 nits anyway. So the only thing then, I mean, you might be able to get some things better, but you'd be really picking at this point whether there would be a difference between Dolby Vision and HDR10 in that respect. But yeah, source file. Was this the only one available? I mean, I don't know how low in quality this was or what happened to the file, but it just didn't look good to me. So I took some screenshots. Okay, and same thing again, really. The first 4K shot is always first. Oh, I had one open. So the 4K is first, Blu-ray disc second, 4K first, and that's, you know, that's how it is. The reason I chose this shot right here is because Blu-ray, DVD, everything that was not HDR and 10-bit always has issues with reds. So this is the 4K and this is the Blu-ray, and though the screenshot on the HDR here is compressed to 100 nits, you can still see that it just has better color depth, and sure, it's not as bright, but color is being represented in the way it should be. So this is purple. This globe is actually purple on SDR, but purple is being introduced here as a fade in 10-bit color. It hasn't filled the entire globe yet somehow. So SDR is just not assigning the correct colors to these spots. Down here as well is dithering and bit depth errors, and it's not representing this color correctly either. HDR is a dark red, and SDR is more like a brown, where the gamma is being raised too quickly. It's coming out of black, and it just can't do this color. So I thought that was interesting. I always like to see how reds look on 4K versus Blu-ray, because they've been notorious on DVD in the DVD days, looking really bad. You needed a good player, a good DVD player back in the day, like an Oppo, that was perfect at doing everything progressive and just had incredible chips back then to do interlaced content. That took a lot of work and passion to get those players looking good back then in the DVD days. So yeah, interesting. So next scene. This is the 4K and that is the Blu-ray. It's going to be lighter always on the Blu-ray. Even on the 4K though, right? There's dithering going on here and noise. Dithering basically is noise. Noise here, noise here, noise here, and it wasn't until I really started looking at this screenshot, and there's artifacts here too, like by this fire pit, as to why and what is going on in this scene and why this is happening. Apart from the source being poor quality, this is color graded. There's a spotlight on them, digitally color graded spotlight on them. How do you know? The reason you know is because this shadow detail here is raised, and the detail here is generally just raised, right? And this black levels here are completely different to this black levels. There is a definitely 100% there's a spotlight on here. It's not from the fire. This is artificial light being added afterwards. You can see it. It's to give the impression, just a style. Whatever, that's fine. But there's no way that if you're wanting me to believe that this fire is creating this blooming light, no, that's not happening. For me, that's color graded in. I see this a lot with digitally shot content. They always do this, and it really kind of, it kind of annoys me sometimes. That you get two different black levels in a scene like this. But the Blu-ray, the Blu-ray obviously reveals much more of this information because you're looking at it now on a screen that was essentially, it was made for SDR. I'm using SDR. My laptop here is SDR, and you can really reveal what is really going on. Again, dithering, noise, all here, and artifacts here. It's the same problems we had on the 4K too, and half of that is because of this halo of light that is very. It is hard to see, but when you see this black level and this black level, and you know that they're different, it's like, oh, they're adding a little light there, and it's not caused by the fire. Because that fire wouldn't light down here, so why is the whole scene lit that way? I just thought that is interesting. But again, because we're now having to fade, because we have this light here, we're having to fade this light from some light to nothing, to zero. Because there's not enough bit depth, you're having to dither this down, and it looks all noisy. All this noise here, all this noise there in this corner. Again, this is not good. This is not what I look for in good picture quality. Would like to see some other reviews on this because sometimes I tend to have a laugh at them and say, what are they actually looking at? On some of these discs, because to me, when I see this, to me it's obvious what's going on. I don't know how many reviewers review on a professionally calibrated OLED. That's the thing. I mean, you can only review on what you have. I understand that, but what are you looking at when you review something at 5 out of 5 or 4.5 out of 5? What are you viewing it on? What are your settings? If your TV is set to vivid mode and you told me it's a 5 out of 5 disc, I don't know. So if I'm putting out a review, I'm doing it on a calibrated display, you know what I mean? Like, I want it to represent what is really happening on the disc and what you see. That's why the first thing I said was when we got, I think our first HDR TV was a Vizio. This was years and years ago. And I said, I said to everyone, I'm like, I want to get this professionally calibrated, you know. I want to see things as, or as close to as the director intended. That was the whole point. And when I put out a review, I don't want to put out false information that you don't see. I want to put out information that is accurate, and these screenshots prove it. This is poor. This is the Blu-ray, obviously, but these exist here on the 4K too. It's on the source file. This is the problem. So yeah, same here. Noise and artifacts here, as though the bitrate wasn't high enough. But again, the bitrate is high enough on the disc. Here as well, in this dark area here, there's some breakup, and a little bit here as well. You could say some of this is actually film grain. It's not. It's actually noise. So the Blu-ray here, the Blu-ray actually reveals even more noise. And here, by his t-shirt, and even more noise here. Again, unacceptable for me. You know, completely unacceptable. Quality. I've been looking at digital content now for years, since the video CD days, if anybody remembers that, with Philips, their discs. Obviously, we was introduced to streaming online. I remember back in the day streaming music online, and not music, but live events online, and the quality was like 64 kilobits per second. You know, it was ultra low, it was all pixelated and things like that. And yeah, great, we've come a long way and stuff. And it's incredible to see over the years how fast we have progressed. But what I'm trying to say is, I've been through the start of it all, of digital content. I know what it looks like. I know what artifacts look like. I know what under bitrate looks like. And now in 2023, I can point this stuff out, especially on an OLED. OLED displays have one benefit over, well, they have multiple benefits, but one of the benefits that they have, say, over projectors and they have over LCDs, is the colors are absolute, right? When a black level is raised, you know it. Whereas on LCD and a projector, those displays are adding light anyway, because they cannot produce black. They cannot produce the colors that you want to see or it represents anyway. Yeah, so just let's move on, because I don't want to get talking about this for too long, because when I talk about this stuff, I never stop. So this was the very next scene, and there is noise and artifacts in this entire scene, the entire shot. Now this might not translate well to YouTube, but it's there. Yes, the Blu-ray has different encoding settings. That is true. So the Blu-ray is introducing its own issues as well, but the Blu-ray is revealing some interesting information that is also in the source, and there is all this noise here, right? Blu-ray by itself does not introduce all of this noise just by itself. It doesn't do that. It could be potentially under bitrate, that is true, but no. This to me is 100% unacceptable picture quality, and I spotted it instantly. And again, on a professionally calibrated display, this is instantly visible. You know it. You can see exactly how the disc is supposed to look and what they've done, and this is easily visible. These effects here, and all of this is visible on a TV on the 4K. It just might not translate very well here from this screenshot. But yeah, unacceptable for me. I had to see one of the reasons why I don't normally typically compare things to Blu-rays, because I know how Blu-ray looks. Like I said, I've been looking at Blu-ray, well, let's go back. I've been looking at digital images, VHS, Laserdisc, video CD, DVD. I've been through the entire, all the way up to Blu-ray and now 4K. I've been through it. I know how SDR 8-bit content looks. And it's still unacceptable picture quality this is for me. So, okay, moving on. Just wanted to give you an idea of the color grading that they've done on the movie. So obviously these borders are black, they are 0%, and this is not the same. These are different, and that's because they've raised the black levels of the movie to give it a more filmic look, I guess you could say. On digitally shot content, I think this approach looks terrible because it washes out the image. I guess you could say, going back to OLED and LCD, this is what an LCD looks like, right? This is what a projector looks like, where it cannot produce blacks. You know, everything is washed out. There's no dynamics to the image whatsoever. Now it might sound as though I'm picking on LCD and projectors. In some ways I am. I don't mean to. It's just their displays cannot display pure black and have that level of black level detail and dynamics that an OLED can. I've owned projector and LCD TVs, and I've said to myself I would never go back to this. You know, but now they're putting it back into the movies themselves, and it's like, come on. If anyone has seen Lucy, Lucy is digitally shot, and that is how I would want my movies to look. Lucy is about as dynamic, colourful and detailed as you want digital to look, and it takes advantage of everything that it has. As a format, a digital format, and digital can look great, but for me this doesn't look good. This raised black thing, it's not my thing at all. The reason I chose this shot, this is the 4K, is because there is a light source above here, and why this is significant is because there's banding lines. If you want to call them banding lines, that might be stretching it a little, but there is bit depth here. There's bit depth errors here, and it's definitely a problem. There is also the same on Blu-ray, but Blu-ray kind of just gets masked together, so you can't really see it on Blu-ray. And obviously the brightness difference is significant, absolutely. Now this shot here, this is where I look for bit depth errors. I don't know if other people do this as well. This guy's cheekbone here, where light, facial light then goes to dark, you can see there's a potential blue here, and it's the same on this guy's cheek. Really this depends on your display and how you see it. You could be seeing it differently with different settings, but it is there, and this type of bit depth errors is a problem with digitally shot content. So the Blu-ray, because we have that look again of more gamma, it kind of washes this out because it wouldn't need to fade as quickly because there's more brightness there, which I do find interesting. But even in the background of these shots, you can, if you can see, there's noise in the background of these shots that is not film grain. It's not film grain at all. So now this one right here, I thought this one was interesting. There is banding lines going all the way across the screen here. The screen is lit slightly here and then fades into that nothingness. And again, these fades are the real problem here as well. There is a light blue line at the bottom here too, and there is one slightly at the top. Very difficult to see in HDR, but in SDR, excuse me, SDR, you can now see this purple line, and the purple line at the top here, and banding lines and things like that. There's some artifacts, something going on here. That is not good. I found this shot to be absolutely offensive to my eyes. I just did not like it. The 4K basically has exactly the same issues. Again, leaning towards that this is actually a source problem, which is the real problem here. So yeah, not a good transfer for me. I did not like that. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Freaky. It is a fun movie. If you want the best version is the 4K Blu-ray, 100%. But the jump is not big. Resolution-wise, color-wise, black levels and stuff are actually much better. Things like that, they actually are better. Things look how they're supposed to look. But Shout Factory, can we get better source quality? Because the source quality is what's letting Shout Factory down. It's what breeds doubt in their company, in their releases. Because if you look at what they've done, their good releases are excellent. I think pretty much everything I review from them is 4.5, leaning to 5 most of the time. But then they get these odd ones that come out. Freaky, Platoon, The Craft. Now admittedly the Craft had places and spots where it looked really good, but I'm looking at it from an average point of view where the first 4.5 minutes of the movie looked like DVD. I can't review that well. There's never a point in me putting in a review out that I'm going to review that well. Sorry. I don't care if the rest of the disc was a reference disc. I can't review that disc look good because I'm reviewing it based on the entire disc, not just some section in an hour's time that looks absolutely incredible. It has to be reviewed as a whole. So anyway, yeah. That was my thoughts on Freaky. If you've seen it, let me know. What do you think? You going to get a magnifying glass now and start looking at Freaky and seeing what you can find? Let me know. Let me know what you think to this review. And thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.